Hey there, it's Jess. If you're new here, I'm a certified professional canine nutritionist, raw nutrition certified for dogs and cats, a holistic pet health coach, the founder of Wild Wellness Pet, and the host of the Pet Parenting Reset podcast that you're listening to right now, where every pet deserves the absolute best, and every pet parent is welcome. Learn from the best holistic and integrative experts in veterinary medicine and nutrition every Tuesday right here on this podcast. Or get individualized help with your pet through one-on-one consultations and take a deep dive into the root cause with the Wild Wellness Bioenergetics at-home testing kit. It's time to rethink how we raise our pets, a reset to naturally healthy dogs and cats. If you've been feeling like there has to be something more, something better, a better way to raise healthier pets, welcome to the Pet Parenting Reset. Welcome back, pet parent. As you know, because I talk about it all the time, Kimberly, my dog, she just turned 12. We just celebrated her 12th birthday, and I have had her since she was about 2.5 years old. I decided, based on all of the information that I had, that she was probably born sometime in October. So Halloween is like my favorite holiday. So I decided her birthday is Halloween. That's when we celebrate. So she just turned 12. And the thing is that anybody that looks at her, anybody that interacts with her for years and years and years, nobody believes me about how old she is. They're like, no way, she's still a puppy, because she has puppy energy and she's blonde. So it hides the white fur really, really well. But I notice, because she's my dog and I'm with her all day, every day, that they're definitely, granted, we've talked about this. 2025 has been a very tough year for a lot of people. I was not excluded from this. In fact, I feel like I was like the maid of honor at somebody's, I don't know what was happening, power moment this year. But it's been stressful, and I've definitely noticed that Kim, I'm seeing that she's aging a little bit, and just various things that she's doing. And so I've been changing up a few things in her routine. One of the things that I recently started her on is Myco Dog's Clarity, the mushroom blend that they have, specifically because she's aging. And so my guest today is Carter Easler. He is the Director of Research and Education with CBD Dog Health and Myco Dog. And we are going to talk about something really, when I say this is cool, this is like the coolest thing that I know that anybody in our space has done in a very, very long time. They have actually put together a study showing the benefits of specifically their Clarity blend from Myco Dog. So Carter, welcome, first of all, to the Pet Parenting.
Thanks, Jessica. Happy to be here. Like we were saying before we started here, this has been a long time coming. I get to see you like a few times a year. It's always a delight at these different, learning conventions and industry events. And I feel like you are always like right in there at the source of information that is so helpful for pet parents. So I'm grateful that your show exists. I'm grateful that you exist. So happy to be here.
Thank you. Well, I'm thrilled that you're here because, yes, I feel like we have been trying to do this for a very long time, and it's just been, so much has been going on, and you were actually a very big participant in getting this study done. Like, this was your baby.
Yes, this is my baby.
I want to talk all about this study, but before we talk about this study, we have to talk about the history of CBD Dog Health and Myco Dog. So, Angie has been on the podcast before. We talked about it a little bit, but it's been a while. So I'd like to give people just kind of a refresher of how CBD Dog Health started, and then branching into Myco Dog, and, the reason behind all of it.
Yeah. So it is like, it's been like a really vital part of my life for the last 7 years. My work with Angie and learning and teaching about adaptogens and hemp and fungi. And for me, it all started when I first met Angela at her rescue farm for senior dogs and farm animals, Fireflake Farm in Florida. And she'd already been operating this rescue for over 10 years at that point. And so I came into this kind of like magical paradise, like tucked into the woods in Florida, where she had all these old dogs that were thriving, and all of this kind of menagerie. And so I got to live and work there and kind of watch what she did, and how people would come and they would drop an old dog off on the door, and they'd be like, listen, for a variety of reasons, but so often, like, my mother whose dog died, my mother died and this is her dog, or I've spent so much money and I literally just can't afford it anymore. The vet told me that there's nothing I could do, and they would leave these dogs with us and with Angela on the farm, and depending on the dogs or the animals, one time she got 15 chickens were just
Oh my gosh.
left. They were these fluffy little chickens. They were so cute. And I would watch her adapt her strategy and use the different holistic modalities at her fingertips to really care for these animals in a very individualized way, using the things that I have always been passionate about, the using nutrition and medicinal cannabis, mushrooms, that have always been a huge passion of mine. And we just kind of like fell right in step with one another, and our passion for learning and for the why behind the use of these things just kind of meshed. So I've been working with these herbs and mushrooms and with Angela for a while now, and this has been one of my favorite things that I've gotten to do. Having this research to be something that I could focus on and work with our veterinary team on as a principal investigator is so exciting.
Well, I think, first of all, just anyone who has the opportunity to speak with Angela ever
Mm-hmm.
is like, you just get drawn into this, like, yes,
Oh yeah.
utopia like actually exists, and let
Oh
me
yeah.
show
Her
you.
passion is electric.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. But the reality of the products, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously, nobody comes on here to be like, buy my product, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the reality of the products that CBD Dog Health and Myco Dog are putting out on the market, they are beneficial, I feel like, for every mammal
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
so many different ways.
Absolutely. I mean, we have evolved alongside the reishi and the hemps and the lavenders for millennia, for millions of years. And so they are a vital part that we must integrate into our health systems, because this kind of area of it being removed from us is new. That is in the last 100 years, as we've moved into this structure of society that we're now in, which is really different from how it used to be. So like, this is not, it can seem like, whoa, mushrooms are so big right now. This is just a return to normal. And with that comes a lot of learning. There's a lot of learning. There's a lot of unlearning about, what is medicine? What is the difference between the mushrooms that I'm getting at the grocery store, which love them, cooking them every day for myself and my dog? What's the difference between that and a practitioner grade therapeutic extract of different functional mushrooms that have different therapeutic profiles, different purposes, and how do we make them in such a way that they are going to be the most potent, the most effective, the safest? And there are both, again, thousands of years of traditional use that we can look back to for guidance, and now more and more frequently we have really great evidence. We have good science that is confirmatory of what we've always known. What is, as Angela says, the original medicines.
Yes. Well, and I want to talk about that science, but before we talk about that science, how does Myco Dog look at what you just said? What is the difference in a mushroom that you're getting at the grocery store, or even maybe at your farmer's market? What is the difference in the mushrooms that you're getting in, say, a Myco Dog tincture? And how do
Mm-hmm.
you get it from a mushroom
Mm.
into this liquid form that
Yep.
we're giving to our pets?
Okay. Well, before I just ramble on forever, I will catch myself. I've got like a handout that I can give you. That's just my hit list on whether you are looking for a mushroom extract for yourself, for your pet, for your dad who forgets his keys every day. This is a hit list that I'll send to Jessica that is like just the top factors in something that's going to be really high quality, safe, and hopefully effective. The first kind of main difference between what you're going to find in your Bella mushrooms at the Stop and Shop and something like a dual extracted reishi mushroom from the fruiting body is, the first thing, what was it grown on? Was it grown for the purpose of growing fast and full? Think like our mutant chickens.
Uh-huh.
Are we growing this thing to just like produce as much as it can as fast as we can so we can get it to market and make money on it or sell it? Not saying that our grocery store mushrooms are bad. Not saying that they're, that it's just a different purpose. Like, is it for just kind of a food stuff? I would argue that our food should be as organic and well sourced as possible. But regardless, there's a delineation between that and something that is for therapeutic use. It's just like a different scale of focus. And so, as I was saying, what it's grown on is kind of number one for me. Different mushrooms natively grow from different substrates. Substrates are like whether it's hardwood or leaf litter or dung. They grow on different substrates, and it's important to recognize what they're getting from those different substrates. Is there the bitulenic acid that's in birch trees? The different nutritional compounds of these different substrates. And so when we're growing these mushrooms fast and fierce, most of the time they're being grown on oats, rice, grain, industrial byproduct like wood pulp. And those things, while you can grow chaga on wood pulp or oats, it's not going to have the same chemical constituents and molecular makeup, forgive my science overload, but without it growing on kind of the right stuff. That's kind of number one. And that is, if you can find out that at the beginning, that will cut away a lot of the fat of what you're looking for in a medicinal mushroom product. That's really key. And it makes sense, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think I want to talk about some of the things that we are looking for to say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you have a few different blends. You also have some like individual, like you can just buy the
Yeah,
individual mushroom tincture, but the
right.
blends for me is like where it's at. Like these were
Totally.
put together for a reason, for a purpose. They work
Mm-hmm.
really well together. They kind of, so that's where it's at for me. So,
That's one of the points on my hit list is you want to be using a blend of mushrooms. You want to rely and take advantage of the synergistic properties with combination of different mushrooms. Because as we talked about, there's different specialization between them. There's also a lot of overlap in the therapeutic properties. Many of the different mushrooms are immunoregulatory. They balance inflammation. They've been shown in research to be beneficial for a whole host of different types of cancer. So there's a lot of overlap, and then there's specialization. When you use them together, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, basically.
mhm.
So the reason that we have those single extracts is just for the most part for like kind of a fine tuning of the focus. Being able to go, my dog has respiratory issues. I've got them on breathe, but she's getting a little older, getting a little slower. Let's add a little bit of lion's mane to that and have that kind of round out what is this individual dog's set of needs. Yeah. So definitely be using a blend. That's a high recommendation.
So I just want to switch gears a touch
Sure.
before we get too far down the rabbit hole of mushrooms because
Yeah,
that's where
you
we're
just
going.
cut me off because I get into like science mode and I just start ranting.
You're well, because we're gonna talk about the senior dog study. That's kind of the point of having you on today and
Yeah.
what I am so excited about. But I don't want to ignore that a full spectrum hemp extract is also
Hmm.
insanely beneficial for our
For
dogs. And
sure.
still so many people are scared of it. And I say this,
Hmm.
like I forget sometimes. I have certain people in my life that will remind me very often that they're like, not everybody knows what you know.
Mm,
I have to be reminded of this
yes, me
so
too.
often because I'm just like, this feels like common sense to me.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's not necessarily for most people.
Yeah.
In fact, like, I was literally talking to my mom earlier this year about one of her animals and herself, and
Hmm.
I was like, "Well, I know you bought that bottle from CBD Dog Health because I sent you the link, blah, blah, blah. I know you have that at your house.
Yep.
Use it." And she's, like, terrified, even for her dog,
Wow.
because where she works for a government contractor, and they have just, like,
Mm.
scared the crap out of her
Oh yeah.
about
Yeah. The testing and the,
yes, about
yeah,
weed.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like she doesn't understand the differences, and
Totally.
so if you can kind of explain that a little bit.
Oh my God. We could have a whole conversation on this topic, but it has to do with the unlearning.
Yeah,
It's, we're really coming out of 80 years of prohibition and coordinated, concentrated attacks on not only hemp and CBD, but pretty much anything that was competitive against industry, especially the pharmaceutical industry throughout the last century. So like that is not me just like griping. That is documented, factual. We all know this. All the guests on your
yeah.
podcast, they get this. But there is a fear of this stuff. And I think that with any natural modality, just as with pharmaceuticals, there is a safe and effective way to use them. And it's about being knowledgeable about what it is as a therapeutic tool. So, really, like, while there is a way greater safety profile among these things, it is super important that you are getting it from a trustworthy source because one hemp extract is not the same as the next. And even at a high quality, even at like a really high standard of quality, some strains of hemp are going to have very different effects from other strains because it's CBD is not like that. CBD is one molecule. We are
Mm.
talking about the full spectrum extract of a medicinal plant with thousands of different unique compounds. So that's why with CBD Dog Health, we have different strains of hemp for different purposes. If we're going for neurological issues, cognitive support as like kind of a companion to a mushroom, we're going to have cannabinoids in there like CBG, which has been studied for its benefit for sleep, cognition, memory in both humans and dogs. And understanding that there's that big difference can really help you guide your strategy.
So when you say there's, for example, you just said if there's like a higher concentration of CBG, for example, you're
Hmm.
still talking about this is still a full spectrum hemp product. Can you
Yes.
tell me
Yes.
why people want full spectrum, even if, because I think
Yeah.
that can be confusing too. If you're like, well, we have a higher concentration of CBG in this
Right. Right. That
particular
can just
strain,
sound
and they're
like we're
like,
sprinkling more of that in.
right,
That's
or is it not like, I think people get
right.
confused. Is it full spectrum? Is it not full spectrum? Why are
Yeah.
you I think people get really confused about that.
Totally. Okay, well think of like let's go apples to oranges. Are you having a Honeycrisp or are you having a Macintosh? Are you having a navel or are you having a blood orange? These are genetic variations on a plant that produce different fragrances, flavors, have different just overall chemical makeup. And the same thing is true of hemp plants. You got different flavors out there. And so they have different compounds. CBG is one of over 141 unique cannabinoids: CBD, CBG, THCV, CBN. They are all different. CBD and THC are the most abundant. So in any full spectrum extract, you're going to see high content of CBD. But then if it is a true full spectrum, you should have a breakdown of a bunch of other what we call minor cannabinoids like CBG, CBN that have their own therapeutic benefits. And so in any extract, you do want it to be in its most raw and unprocessed form, because then you're going to get that incredible diversity of not only cannabinoids, but terpenes like beta caryophyllene, fantastic for inflammation, studied for its benefits to cancer. Flavonoids like quercetin, you may have heard of. Great immunoregulator, really good for itchy dogs. So we want all those different compounds. And when we start to isolate them, when we, have somebody who is rightfully scared, like your mom, because of the onus that's been put on her. Like, if we detect a micron of THC in your blood, you lose your job. People are scared of it, totally reasonably, but we start isolating it. We get it down to a broad spectrum where we've taken THC out, not just THC. THC comes out of that thing with a bunch of other stuff. And then we get down to isolates where we've basically tried to make a pharmaceutical drug out of a plant, and we've lost the plot. It's like, it's a totally different thing at that point. So yeah, I mean, and just as like a final thing on it, it's like the safety profile of this plant in its unadulterated form is incredibly high. Broad therapeutic window, meaning you don't have to land on a specific dosage, really. You can be in this range, and high safety profile. It's really amazing. So just kind of knowing what the properties are, having a little bit more knowledge about like what's going to be, what does my pet need? Again, and sorry, I'm to go on, but the same principles apply to how we're extracting our mushrooms. We want the broadest spectrum of those naturally occurring bioactive molecules that work synergistically as possible. So different set of kind of practices, because each plants are very different from fungi, and certain fungi have ways that they need to be extracted. Certain plants do better in different extraction methods, but we want to rely on traditional use and science to hone that in on what is going to give you the best outcome. And sometimes that's more expensive. Sometimes you can go like, okay, well, why is this one this much and why is that one that much? And it's like, well, did they grow it in like a dank basement in a plastic bag? Or was this grown in an old growth forest in the Pacific Northwest on its native substrate, harvesting the fruiting body, the place where there's the greatest concentration of all those beneficial molecules, or the just the buds, the flowering buds of the hemp plant, again, where there's all the good stuff is. Are there any like fillers? How look at the ingredients. How many like fillers and flow agents and other stuff that's in there for basically for the ease of manufacturing, shipping, storage. Like that, a lot of it is superfluous and unnecessary. But there are parts that are like that we don't want to compromise on.
Well, and I think today, especially, our dogs and cats are the sickest they have ever been. And, I do hear a lot of people like they want to cut corners. They want to save money. The economy sucks right now. I get it.
Yeah, it's rough.
But at the same time, we live in the most toxic time ever that we know of on our planet. And so to be more discerning about when you are going to go out of your way to buy certain types of supplements for your pet, as an example, like, why not take the extra step? And yes, probably a little extra money up front to say, okay, I know my dog or my cat is sick. And I know that dogs and cats are sicker than they have ever been in the history of us having domesticated these animals, or in the process of domesticating these animals, as I like to say with our cats.
Right.
And say, like, okay, I want to actually pick a product that is the safest. It has the best efficacy. I know it's the cleanest. And that's one of the things that I have loved about CBD Dog Health and Myco Dog in my years in the healthy pet space, is that I feel like out of pretty much any company that's out there, I have learned more from you guys than anybody else.
We're doing our job then, because I feel you. Like it's rough out there, and there's a lot of information that we're getting. We're overloaded with information about, it can just be easy to kind of be like, damn, things are bad. But at the same time, we do have greater access to information than we've ever had. And there is a huge renewed interest in how we can use these things. And I believe that if you just train yourself, I work on myself every day when I'm like, oh my God, there's another thing I don't know. That, that doesn't have to be like, damn, I don't know enough. That is, hey, this is something else I can add to my tool belt. And with each thing that you add to your tool belt, you get better at incorporating it, and you are able to better spot the gaps in your strategy. So like it's progressive, it's not like you're not starting at square one. And so I believe that if you just take it step by step, learn as you go, you may need to hear something repeated a number of times, and someday it just might click on something that you'd forgotten you had kind of in the back of your mind. Yeah, we just got to be gentle with ourselves, because I find the same thing. I meet people, like I had this vet come up to me recently at a show, and we were talking. She's like, "Well, I just don't recommend CBD because it's toxic." And I was like, "Okay," and like just like hold myself back. We can greet this in a gentle way. I'm
Yeah,
like,
I would love to hear more about
really?
this.
Yes, I'm like, I'm so curious why you think that.
Right?
Yeah, because like
What
I always like I'm really careful with myself to not overreach, and to make sure that I fully understand it, to be a discerning eye and look at the science, like figure out where people are bullshitting, basically. Like where's the bullshit? Let's put our bullshit hat on and be like, okay, does this make sense? What is the information that they're providing to justify me spending $50 to $100 on something? Like that's not nothing. I'm relying on this, and like my best friend is sitting there not feeling their best, and it's personal. It's deeply personal, and so I get why people are kind of like,
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I want to say before we jump into the senior dog study,
mm-hmm,
my sister has Goldens, and
mm-hmm,
we know most Goldens are if they live long enough, they're gonna have cancer.
mm,
And this was actually a Golden that her husband came to her with, but she bonded with really, really deeply. And he did get cancer. For, I will say, the first time I think in my life, even though people in my family come to me all the time and ask me advice all the time, it never gets taken. Well,
mm.
this time she came to me and she asked my advice because she was just devastated that her dog was just diagnosed with cancer. And literally, the vet was like, maybe a couple of weeks. Like, maybe you got a
Jeez.
couple of weeks, right? And so I was like, all right, here we go. I had her put him on a ketogenic diet. I incorporated CBD. I incorporated like CBD dog health and Myco dog and a
Mm.
few other things. And she got almost 8 more months with this dog.
Wow.
And I was so thankful, one, that she decided to take my advice, not because it was my advice, but because she
Yes.
got so much more time with this dog. And it was very little. Like, literally, I just was like, here you go.
Yep.
Here are some recipes, some, ketogenic recipes. These are the supplements I'm recommending you give him. And she
Mm-hmm.
said, I'm doing 100% of it. I don't care because
Yeah.
I love this dog
Amazing.
so much.
Yeah.
Right?
Sometimes it takes that shock event to spur the kind of drive to be consistent, to make those changes that seem really big, and then once you've done that, there's no going back. So
Yeah.
I'm excited that she has taken the dive, and so heartened to hear all the success that they've been having, because it's there is. Sorry, just waiting for siren to pass. So loud.
It's okay.
Yeah, there is real change that we can affect. These natural elements are no nonsense. It can really make a difference, and quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. Very quickly.
Yeah.
So, talking about making a real change in your pet's life, I said at the very beginning of this podcast, Kim just turned 12 years old. And so there are a few things that I'm changing because I finally, like, now that we're getting to the end of the year, I finally feel like I have a little bit of bandwidth back in my
Right.
own life and in my space to actually do the things that I have been doing for so many years with her. But then this year was just crazy, and a lot of things kind of fell by the wayside.
Hmm.
And then I started, like I said, I started noticing that, like, okay, there were signs of aging
Hmm.
that I had not seen in her before. So one of the things was that I started adding Myco Dog's Clarity. into I just give it to her with her food, which I know there are lots of different ways we can do it, putting it directly on their gums, like all the
Hmm.
things. But this is where I am in life right now. I'm putting things in her food.
It's actually totally fine for you to
Right.
put the mushrooms in the food. That's recommended, in fact.
And clarity is what you did the senior dog study on, correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. So it's a blend of lion's mane, cordyceps, reishi, and then two other adaptogenic herbs, ashwagandha and bacopa monnieri.
So, okay, you have said the word adaptogen a couple of times. Can you
Mm.
tell me what it is?
Yeah, so I like to frame it kind of in a this or that kind of way, where let's think of like a common pharmaceutical, like an NSAID, like Rimadyl or carprofen, a molecule. That is a specific molecule with a unidirectional effect in the body. It affects kind of one thing, and it's often a really kind of like either it is disrupting it and completely turning it off, or it is upregulating it to quite a significant degree. When we talk about herbs, plants, fungi with adaptogenic properties, what that basically means is they are communicating more on a systemic level with the body's various functional elements. And so that's almost kind of like a filter often to the downstream effect. And what they are doing is they are adapting to the specific needs of the body. It's relying on these networks and frameworks of function in the body, whether it be the immune system, the neurological system. It's just bringing them back to balance, basically. So whether that is a stimulating effect or a depressive effect, it will adapt to what the body needs in that moment. So herbs like ashwagandha, adaptogen, reishi, adaptogen, hemp, adaptogen. They're really cool, and you'll find a lot of herbs and plants that have adaptogenic properties, and there are also many that don't. There are many that are much more unidirectional, albeit less kind of narrowly focused than something that is more isolated and refined
Okay.
or synthetic.
Or synthetic, which is a whole other topic,
Whole
but
other thing.
whole other thing. So if somebody is looking at their dog and they're going,
Hmm.
I wonder, I'm just wondering, like I've
Mm,
noticed some changes. They're getting older. What are some of the things that you would be looking for to say, you know what, clarity would be great for this dog?
yeah, it's so fascinating because the process of aging can be so different for every animal, every person. And so the scoring criteria that we used in the senior dog study was a really broad look at kind of the main components that classify CCD, canine cognitive dysfunction. And so the behaviors that we're looking at are things like sleep quality, energy and activity during the day, um, eye contact, appetite. Um, are they able to perform the commands that you have taught them and that you've been used to doing? So, for instance, one of the dogs in our study, she's a 13-year-old scent hound. Her name's Jessie, and her pet parent was a like longtime breeder and trainer of these scent dogs. This Jessie was kind of like the matriarch of this brood, and she was an amazing scent dog, like top in the class, awards. And as the last year or so progressed with her, she started losing the trail and not being able to perform her same tracks and new ones that were very much at her level. And this is the dog that was kind of the model that they would use with the other dogs to train with. So, it was very like personally for them really hard. They love this dog so much, and to see her kind of losing her way is really scary. But she was able to sleep better through the night, which we know is so important for recovery in the brain and the immune system all over the place. She was able to kind of be more present, more playful with the younger dogs that were starting to irk her a little bit, and she started doing her courses again and being able to complete them little by little over the course of our 60-day study. And so she's doing well. She's still on it now. We check in every once in a while, but yeah. So yeah, your question was, what can it look like? A lot of different things, and you know your dog best. When there are little changes happening, pay attention to that. And another thing that I learned from the study too is like, wow, the benefits of having data to like not have to rely on my little caveman brain to remember every little thing that happens in my dog's life and then contextualize it in weeks and months. Like you said, we are all so busy, and it's in these downtimes that I'm like, oh, Archie does look a little fat in the back
Oh no.
end. But you know, the having in this study the ability to track their sleep, their rest interruptions, their daily rhythms, pacing, activity levels through the day using this 24-hour monitoring device that we had on all the dogs in our cohort. That gave us and these pet parents real grounded information of like, oh yeah, she is having less sleep interruptions. She is more active during the day. That it's not, but that being then coordinated to the weekly reports that everybody was doing, asking this long list, 64 questions that are really specific that we're doing once a week, to be able to correlate that with the hard data is very confirmatory and kind of like not only paints the human experience of it, but the actual quantification of those changes.
I was I'm so glad that, like, you kinda drew that out a little bit because I was literally tearing up when you were talking about Jessie, because what was going through my mind was that so many of us just accept a lot of these symptoms and kind of brush them off as it's just part of old age, it's just part
Mm-hmm.
of growing older, and we don't have to accept that.
Right.
It's
Right.
not like, just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal.
Right.
And I know there's a lot of people on I actually have been in a debate with people online. Like, I don't really debate people online. I think it's such a waste of time and energy.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. It
like,
is.
I have done this before because people are like, "That's common and normal mean the same thing." I'm like, "No, like, this is the part of, like, where we are now in society that is wrong, that is falling apart,
Mm,
that, like, we do not have to accept that this is just a part of aging for our dogs."
right. Yeah. I completely agree. It's so funny you bring that up. I was talking to somebody else about this last week. It's the idea that we have to become old and decrepit is just in a response to a degenerative lifestyle. Piece of information that came from our research is the dogs who had the greatest improvement, who had the most success, most return to stabilization, were this middle chunk on our kind of scale of severity. The dogs in the middle cohort really saw the greatest improvements, which is kind of what we know intrinsically. You know, if we can catch this stuff earlier, we can do a lot more in terms of expanding their longevity. And so I really think that that is kind of the other side of the scale of this kind of mindset where, oh, degeneration is just how it goes. What if we shift the lens to look at what is generative health? What are the practices that we were doing that literally in our bodies are encouraging genesis, create new pathways, creating new cellular energy, new, more muscle, more like neurogenesis in the brain, literally creating those specialized nerve cells that communicate through electrical energy throughout the body. And that's what some of these mushrooms have been studied to do. Lion's mane it's so cool. One of the coolest things about lion's mane, you like rip it in half and it looks like a brain. It's
Mhm.
so cool. Like there's a stem at the bottom and then these like soft tendrils that go out into this like fanned dome. It's looks like a brain. It's great for the brain. So it's both neuroprotective, protects those neuronal connections, and stimulates the genesis of new ones. You can study these different biomarkers in the body. In the body, it has previously been heavily researched for NGF, nerve growth factor. In our study, we looked at another more novel biomarker of neurogenesis called BDNF. which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And we're able to measure increases in neurogenesis, basically.
That's incredible. Though I feel like every day you could learn something new about a mushroom and spend the rest of your life
Oh,
learning
yeah. Oh, yeah.
things new
They're
about
so
mushrooms.
cool. Yeah. I love my other favorite one is cordyceps.
Mhm.
Cordyceps is like the yellow stringy ones. They're often called like the zombie mushroom because there's what's that show, The Last of Us? It's like an alternate horror universe involving fungi. But cordyceps are amazing for basically their ability to, number one, increase blood oxygenation, which is fantastic for the brain. More oxygen in the brain, sign me up. And then the other thing is um, helping with just creating energy on like the mitochondria level of our cells. So allowing these mitochondria to create more of those building blocks of energy that are then used in the cellular level to the tissue to organs. Um, and also cordyceps is often used. It really is like a vitality stimulant, basically. Athletes in human studies often use it. It's been shown to increase respiratory capacity in athletes by up to 10% with regular use.
Wow.
So there's so many benefits to it, and especially for an old dog, I love this combination of mushrooms that kind of target different parts of the experience of aging. You know, are they slowing down? Are they in more pain? Are they just like not as bright? Well, reishi can help you sleep. It's got a great calming effect. It's great for stress and inflammation. Cordyceps, that vitality bringer, oxygen, energy, lion's mane, just like open up the pathways and protecting the nerves. It's such a cool relationship between them. And one more, ashwagandha. I love ashwagandha. The studies have shown that ashwagandha can reduce cortisol up to 30%. Cortisol, the stress hormone. So a lot of this focused on sleep. And sleep was one of the main changes that we really measured throughout this study. So essential.
So, okay, tell me more about the study because I think I just saw a clip where Angela was talking to the veterinarian
Hmm.
that y'all worked with.
Yeah.
And like he has a long history in
Yes.
doing
Yes.
studies and in pharmaceutical studies as well. So it's not just like,
Hmm.
oh, we found somebody who already speaks our language. Like you went out and
Yeah.
you were like, let me show you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we were looking for the right group, the right vet to work with to guide the clinical side. I mean, this is a full clinical study, and we needed somebody who knew how to do this, who could do good science that would stand up to peer review. And Dr. Joel Ehrenzweig at the Veterinary Health Research Centers, he's been a vet for over 30 years. He's been working in clinical research specifically for about 15 years. And most of the products that he was working with, most of the novel ingredients were pharmaceutical, nutraceutical as things have progressed in the last, decade for him. And then we were truly his first fully natural. I mean, that word has lost so much value, but you know, um, whole whole plant, whole fungi extractions.
I'm probably moving soon and I'm going to be facing the same issue. And I'm like, what am I going to do?
I don't mind it until I'm on somebody's show and I have to do
Right.
this.
Yeah. I
If
get
it's
it.
live and I'm like, well, you talk for a bit. Boop.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, where were we? Yeah, so this was new for him and also a great challenge, like I don't want somebody who is just going to agree with everything that we say as we're designing it. I want to have somebody who will stand their ground and know their stuff. And like I'm not the authority. We are hiring somebody to have a really grounded experience of studying these things and bring to that our knowledge and information and practical experience and research. I he wanted to do certain things and I was like, okay, but let's add let's add this. We should also be testing blood biomarkers. And even if they're more new, why don't we be the first ones to really quantify this? We are the first clinical study to look into the use of mushrooms and adaptogens for CCD. It's the first one. I mean, like, that's so cool. I'm so proud of that. And you kind of touched on it earlier, and this is kind of a sidebar, but it's not about like, buy our product, do this. Everyone's going to find what they need to find. I deeply believe in the products that we produce, but my hope for this project is that the next time somebody goes into their vet and says, hey, I'm dealing with this with my dog, the vet doesn't say, well, there's nothing that we can do. There really aren't any drugs out there for that. So good luck. Because that's what most of the clients that we worked with said about their experience. Or I would hope that maybe you're sitting in the waiting room and somebody goes, oh, I actually have my dog on some mushrooms that are really helping them. Try this. I want more people to know about this stuff. That, like, I am out here screaming it from the mountaintop. Like, this stuff is amazing. I use it every day for myself. I've got my family on it. My dog is on it. He's only a year and a half old, but I'm going for the long run.
So, okay, let me stop you there
Yeah.
because I think this is so important. I'm gonna relate this back to something a little different, but as I have found controversial. I actually, anytime I try to talk on social media about getting blood work done for your pets early on in their life, people are like, "Oh, but my vet says I don't need to do that. Why would I listen to you?" And I'm like, "Okay, but when something happens when they're 6, 8, 10 years old, and this is the first time you're getting blood work done for your dog, you
Right.
don't have anything to compare it to,
True.
right?"
Wow.
So that's what I'm thinking in my mind when you just brought up you have a young dog, which, by the way, congratulations on your new
Thank
family
you.
name. And you already have him started on a product that we're in the realm of products that we are talking about using for older dogs or dogs
Hmm.
that are having some sort of deficit that we're noticing.
Sure.
So it is just as important to set them up for success. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how you see mushrooms and full spectrum hemp as setting our pets up for success?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to diminish the use case of these later stage, these animals that are in need right now of help. There are a lot of properties of these mushrooms and adaptogens and hemp that will give you immediate changes, changes in their sensation of discomfort and pain that you can immediately see them just like relax. So important for old dogs. If you're in pain, if you're stressed, you're not healing. We need to help the body move into that more kind of sympathetic nervous state. And that's just kind of one of the things that you could see pretty immediately. But then when we talk about more of these systemic modulations, just making sure that the immune system stays on its track, it's so much better to be working with these like small corrections rather than like, okay, left turn, we got a problem. Let's got to go over there now. And that's really how I look at Archie's longevity is like, let's make these little corrections here and there, try as much as we can to anticipate, major shifts with things like blood work, with activity monitors, and just with kind of a keen eye, making sure to check in with them and kind of see how they're doing on a regular basis. Because if we can just work strategically from the moment that we have the opportunity, whether you got a dog that's you rescued that's 5 years old, or you get a dog from puppyhood, start when you're ready. Start when it is your time, and don't judge yourself for being too late because it's too late. Just go from where you are and recognize, I think, if we're going in a proactive mode, just for instance, the example of your sister's golden retrievers, recognize what are the genetic predispositions of this kind of dog. Maybe that's something, if I've got a golden retriever, or I've got another large breed dog that statistically is more likely to get these sort of neoplasias and cancers and cellular dysregulations, let's put them on these things that have been shown to help the body regulate those things. Turkey tail, it's incredible for encouraging these T cells and B cells, these cells that are, these immune cells that are out there to seek out abnormal cells, mutated cells, and basically take out the trash. Like that's something that we want the body does it every day, all day. Right now, the body is doing that. And we just want to we want to keep that chugging along in an optimal way. So it's so beneficial, both long term and acutely. You just kind of, again, keep adapting the strategy.
I totally derailed you, but we'll spend the rest of the time talking about
Oh
the
my God,
senior.
I'm so I'm going way off on all of this, and I'm giving you like a 10-minute answer to everything you ask.
I love it though, because I mean, this is just real. This is what we are thinking and trying to get out into the world. So, okay, you hired a veterinarian with extensive experience in conducting studies because
Mhm,
you wanted this to be like withstand peer review, to
mhm,
be able to say we're not just out here telling you that this works,
mhm,
we're showing you with data that this works. So you've talked about having extensive questionnaires.
mhm.
You gave us an example of Jesse the scent hound, or I don't know if it was a hound, but it was a scent dog.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, okay, how did you pick the dogs for the study? You talked about like the like median group of dogs
Mhm.
having the best responses to the mushrooms. What Okay, who were you bringing into the study? How are you selecting those dogs, and what did that median group kind of look like?
Mhm. So we screened over 500 dogs. So we had a lot of different backgrounds. They're from all over the country. They're at different household income levels, eating different foods, climatically different regions, and within a range of, I think our youngest dog was 7 and our oldest dog was 16. So, some earlier onset and some that are really trying to figure out what they can do for these basic, often kind of palliative care for these dogs. We enrolled 30 in the end of our study, both in an in-person in-clinic setting as well as digitally across the country. And yeah, I'm sorry. What was your? Can you? What?
So
What?
that I know, that median group, you talked
Mm,
about the median group having the best, like, success with the
yeah.
mushrooms. What were you seeing between, like you just said, like, you've got this, like, early onset, you've
Hmm.
got these, like, really later palliative care.
Hmm.
What does that median group look like? How can we, like, equate that to what people are gonna see in their homes with their pets?
Yeah. So it might look like if you've ever heard of sundowning, if you've,
Yeah.
that's kind of a really common parallel when we look at CCD. Rest interruptions through the night, pacing, having trouble kind of setting into sleep, getting settled, less consistent sleep, being kind of lost in the house, going to pee, but then getting outside and being like, what am I doing out here? Or forgetting to pee at all, house
Mhm.
soiling, the the messes that they're making in the house, aggression, discomfort, just like less interaction. So this median group, they're they're not at a degenerative phase where they are kind of off the deep end, that we've really lost their personality. They're still connecting, but there's just some like faltering happening in what pet parents have kind of seen as their normal. And so the median group, we see kind of the best responses. Really, one of the focuses is sleep. We had a 42% reduction in sleep interruptions in this group, a 12% increase in sleep efficiency. So, really quantifiable levels of a change in their rest phase, which is essential for neurogenesis. So, more sleep, especially for our old dogs, is really important for their ability to continue to stabilize, grow, balance, heal,
So that's not to say that the animals kind of on the other end where they were maybe more in that palliative care phase
Mhm.
didn't see results. They just
Oh, absolutely
were
not.
not
No,
necessarily.
there are the there's a case of a dog that I met in March, and this guy, he wanted to submit his dog for the study, and this dog was in terrible shape. It had a it had a lot going on. They had a euthanasia appointment set in 10 days when I met him, and I was like, damn, I wish that we had met 2 months ago.
Yeah.
But so it didn't make sense for him to be part of our study, but I overnighted him a bottle of clarity, and I was like, just try this, see how it goes. I hope that it helps, and thanks for your interest. And he started using it, and he called me 3 days later, and he was like, she's sleeping, and she up and about during the day for the first time in months. We went for a 30-minute walk today. It's the first time that I've been able to walk with her in 2 months like that. And he canceled his euthanasia appointment. He got
Oh,
he got quality time where this dog was less in pain, less stressed, just less kind of weary, and was able to come back to him. And so this is, I mean, it happened to Jenny, who's on our team with her Great Dane, as Angela was launching the products. Like, we didn't even have them in bottles yet, and Angie sent her a jar of clarity, and same thing happened where she was like, I think it's the end, and it ended up being a real lifeline.
I
Yeah.
don't
Honestly, like, dog tears flow out of me so easily. I'm like, if I can scroll by something and I'm like, oh, can't watch that right now.
right. I know. Like I am that person that if I hear that Sarah McLachlan song, I'm waking up. Like
Oh
it's
my
not, you know
God.
what I mean?
Sarah's back also, by the way. Not another sidebar. She's back and she sounds great.
I bet she does. I bet she does. So, okay. What do you feel this the veterinarian that you worked with to create
Hmm.
this study, who this was, as you said, first again, as you said, I hate using all natural because it is just
Mm,
so bastardized to use that
yeah.
word right now. But truly, like,
Organic, functional.
yes, like this was the first time he had studied a product like this.
Hmm.
How do you feel he came? Or what has he shared with you?
Oh man, like, as soon as the data started coming in, he'd call me and be like, I just got this back. You're not going to believe it. And I'm like, no. I'm like, you don't think so? I was like, Joel, he tried, you tried to temper my expectations early on, say that the best that we could hope for was no change. And when we had reports starting to come back that these dogs were interacting again, that they were eating, that they were hungry again, that they were going out, even just pre data compilation, it really, the results started showing up quickly. And he changed his tune. He was surprised. He was so excited to see his like genuine excitement at something like this, changing his mind. I mean, this is a guy who's in his 70s. Like, he's seen a lot of change, he's been through a lot of clinical trials, and working in an old style model that he was dissatisfied, but probably at that time didn't have the tools and the access to what we do now. And so, you know, I respect him a lot for learning and changing.
So, what I'm hearing is that you hired a vet to conduct a study who has insane amounts of experience conducting studies, who you said, "I'm gonna give you some money to come and help us with this study," and he said,
Hmm.
"The best you're gonna get is no change," and you're like,
Yeah.
"I'm still paying you." He's like,
Yeah. Oh, well, you know what? He didn't say that until after we'd paid him, but but we knew what the mushrooms do.
Yeah, yeah.
And I saw his papers on Javma and AVMA, and I was like, okay, this guy's legit. And talking to him, he had clearly had integrity, and was working to looking to partner with us in a way to do good science. And it was, the planning phase of it was extensive, and we had a lot to figure out about the making sure that the profiles of the dogs that we were bringing into the study were aligned with veterinary standard of measuring this condition. The behaviors that we were studying and the biomarkers that we were looking at. What is the precedent, and where are we pushing it? Where are we extending the science? Because that really is always kind of the goal. It's like, let's build on what we know.
Well, I mean, I know I kind of made a joke of it, but the reason that I say that and the reason that I bring it up is that oftentimes when we are looking at the science, when we're looking at studies, we're like honestly going in to pick it apart because we're
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, who funded this study?
Yes.
And
Yes.
who conducted the study and what happened in the study? And
Mm-hmm.
did they exclude participants? Why
Mm-hmm.
did they exclude
Right.
participants? Like all of these things
Yep.
we're looking at because, we understand there's so much of a bias in science. So that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
the reason that I bring this up, that it's like
Yep.
we could probably easily do the same thing and
Yep.
be as biased, but you're not.
Totally. I mean, there is always going to be bias, or, some places where you don't get everything that you want.
Yeah.
I would have loved to do this study with 1,000 dogs.
Hmm.
A cohort of 30 is what we could do right now. We're just like we're a little baby company that is committed to kind of forwarding this cause. I mean, that's one thing, but then also, like, you look at how many dogs were in the cohort that got Rimadyl approved. It was 8. The kind of like pivotal study that looked at full spectrum hemp extract for epilepsy in dogs from CSU, that was only 18 dogs, I think. So, we, as usual, we hold our organic therapeutics to a much higher standard, and not to discourage anyone from being discerning and asking hard questions of scientists and researchers, and especially companies that are selling a product. We must be diligent and make sure that they are ethically aligned and not just trying to make money. But yeah, I mean, there's I think that good science should invite scrutiny. And we could talk about the details of this research all day, and I'd be like, yeah, and this thing was something that we need to look into more. We need more information about this. But yeah, I think that if we're coming from the right place, it shouldn't be about like a PR move. It should be about uncovering more that we don't know.
Well, I know you could probably go on and on and on and on and on, and I could listen forever as well. But I just appreciate you so much for coming on and talking to us and explaining the study and answering even the silliest of questions that I have.
No, it's my pleasure, Jessica. I love to nerd out on this stuff and share it.
Yeah, yeah. So where can people, if they don't already, which I'm sure most people listening do, but where can people find information on the study? Where can people find the products?
So you can, if you have been hearing this discussion and you're like, hey, my dog might be kind of a candidate for this, or might be needing a little bit of intervention, we are still collecting folks for our next virtual cohort of the Senior Dog Study. So you can go to seniordogstudy.com, and at the bottom you'll see a quick survey that will kind of see if you're potentially eligible, and then we'll follow up with you. Also, you can find us at mycodog.com, cbddoghealth.com. We're on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, tons of educational content on all those platforms. If you want to learn more about other subjects, we really have so much that you can kind of dive into and learn more. Yeah, my name's Carter. You can follow my Instagram at the functional pet, and yeah, we're everywhere.
Yes. Thankfully, because you really do put out such amazing educational information that I love to consume and share. Again, thank you so much for joining us, Carter. If you guys have any other questions, again, you can always reach out to me. I'll help you the best I can or direct you to the right place. And with that, I am going to say, have a great rest of your week. Please give your pet some extra love from me and from Carter this week. And I
Absolutely.
will talk to you next week.
Thanks, Jessica.
Bye. Thanks, Carter.